What's up, everyone? Today we have a very special guest. His name is Isaiah King. He has branched his business across all things fashion and has his newest endeavor, which I believe it was the first year this year, Minnesota Swim Week. Isaiah King.
Thank you. Yeah, it's first year of Minnesota Swim Week, and yeah, it's definitely been an interesting year.
Cool. That's good to hear, man. And I think part of this podcast is just having people on that are just finding new things and just growing as a whole. So, it's interesting to think that Minnesota Swim Week never existed. And I bet there's so many people that have thought about it and are like, oh, that could never work. And then here you are, you're doing it and you're on Twin Cities Live.
Thank you.
And yeah, dude, just shout out for just continuing to just push the envelope and grow.
Yeah, I mean, I just started. It was really interesting because I had I probably did 5 to 10 impromptu focus groups. I'm just how would people receive it? Why hasn't it been done? Is it too controversial? Is it gonna communicate well to the Minnesota audience? And everyone's do it. I'm just hey, but why hasn't it been done? But
yeah,
I put it together this year with the help of a lot of cool people. And it's just been one step at a time, but I'm definitely looking forward to next year and hopefully just keep growing the entire thing.
Yeah. And I want to get into that a little bit later. I want to figure out how can you grow? And me just being the serial entrepreneur I am, can I help? How can I get involved? How can I help you, grow this thing? Because I think I like to be involved in just so many different things, and I kind of think it's healthy to not just do the same thing your whole life. You kind of got to look around and just learn different things at times. But before we get started, I think I really want to know how would you describe yourself if you were jumped in an Uber and they're what do you do? How do you tell them what you do?
Ooh. It depends the week. I mean, as a freelancer, it's almost things are always constantly changing and you're changing with the market. I think the easiest way I'd explain it is creative directing. We do creative directing with marketing, branding, photography is how I started. I'm doing a production, event production, runway, just model casting. So I think, definitely fashion, creative directing, marketing, and branding is how I probably describe myself, especially as 2023 goes on. I think we're moving into a lot of content and continuing with that. So it's just the overall creative directing for sure.
And for the people out there that don't know, what is creative directing?
Creative directing. So I do creative directing specifically, in fashion and the art-ish world. And it's, everything from the business side of it to expenses, finances, to the partnerships, B2B. And then there's the art side of it, the art direction and the managing of the shoots, of the production teams. And then it's also being a creative. Coming up with new ideas, fresh ideas, meeting with other creatives. And it's just kind of a combination of all three kind of aspects of it. Yeah.
Yeah. And I when I think of creative directing, we just do videos. We're a video production company here, but I think of okay, the client's hey, we want to make a video. What do we do? Yeah. And then you're at that flat footed stage, and it's honestly very tough. I think I've slowly figured out how to be a better creative director. Yeah. And I'm looking for pointers from you today as well. But that's tough. Sometimes it's great. Clients come to you with a concept. Sometimes clients have no concept, and you have to take the creative into your own hand. Yeah. And I don't know. I think it's interesting too, because the word creative director gets thrown around a lot nowadays.
It's thrown around a lot. I think, especially with the video production stuff, that's probably one of the hardest aspects of creative directing, because not only are you coming up with concepts, communicating it to the client. You're working with huge teams, equipment, production. And I think, being in the production scene is, as a creative director is probably the hardest part of creative directing, but it definitely gets thrown around a lot. I think everybody's a creative director, but it's really just managing sometimes. But yeah, I think that's very true. I think it could sometimes be mistaken with managing, but I think at the end of the day, creative directing for videos, I think is tough. It's tough because sometimes you have these crazy ideas, or I'm guilty of it. I have these crazy ideas that I want to execute on, and then I just know that the resources and what it's going to take. And sometimes you're just the client. It's a heartbreaker.
Does not, yeah. It's the client isn't going to want to go that crazy. The client's great and they have budget, but how crazy can they go? Cause as you know, like the budget will get eaten up really quick. I'm sure like we'll get into Minnesota Swim Week, but I'm sure like that budget like might sound big at the start and then gets eaten up. Yeah. So
definitely.
Well, just so that people can kind of get to know you, obviously we have a little bit of overview on what you are, who you do, or what you do, who you are. Want to just jump into this quick little rapid fire segment. I think this is always good just to kind of get like the pace up and just kind of get people like locked in. So real quick, how did you get your start?
Ooh, I started honestly just doing photo shoots with friends, and kind of that was kind of my gateway into just anything creative, photography, and that quickly turned into like working with models, working with actual like industry professionals. And then, I mean, everything since then has been kind of just like a rapid fire. It's like, oh my gosh, there's so many things you can do creatively. I want to do them all. Let's do them all. So it was definitely the photography kind of start for me.
Super cool. And how long have you been in the creative industry?
Not long. It feels like forever because of all the sleepless nights and the managing people, but it's been, I started in 2021. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It really has not been long.
That's impressive.
Thank you. I mean,
that's impressive. I started in 2020 and I always like to think I'm a newbie.
No, it's, I mean, shoot. I mean, 2020, I think 2020 was definitely a time for people to kind of branch out, I think. I mean, in the midst of all that was happening. But yeah, it hasn't been that long. 2020
for me was like this time to like sit back, like your job isn't like the forefront of your life. You're at home a lot. I think like a lot of creativity got like sprung up through the pandemic in a weird way. Like I've said it on this podcast before, and I'm sure some people like hate this, but I think when I like think of the pandemic, I think of like happy times and like free flowing lifestyle. It's weird, but like we just locked in our apartment. I had a roommate. I was fortunate enough to have a roommate, a girlfriend, a bunch of community around me. We had people in our building we loved to hang out with, and like we were just like locked in our like Home Alone style, just like running around doing whatever the heck we wanted. And it just like, I don't know, I loved it. And I think it allowed me to get rid of that stress that was like constantly looming over me, the stress of like, gotta get to work at this time, gotta work out, gotta be, when like everything was shut down, it was like you had no like social pressure, no pressure from work. And then I think like that's what allowed me to pick up a camera and get creative. And everyone has different ways they got into it, but for me, that's what
definitely that transition.
For sure. Did you have anything similar to that?
I mean, 2020 was honestly like the transitional part for me. So I was an essential worker. I worked in like a health production, like manufacturing.
So you're not on happy times.
So I was stressed. They try to like brand it as like, oh yeah, these like new contracts are coming in. I'm like, no, like I'm stressed, right? But it's that, I think a lot of people in that time were looking for something else to do, especially being out of work, coming back to it. They just realized it wasn't fulfilling. And creatively, I mean, just like you said, when there's like no like structure almost, you're just like, okay, like what can I do? And a lot of people took up like home improvement and just creating things. And for me, it was definitely like photography, and let's just like do more things creatively for sure. Yeah.
What camera do you shoot on to this day?
So I have a mix. Sometimes I'll shoot on my 6D Mark II. That's like my everyday camera. I had a shoot a couple weeks ago. We shot on an R5. That was really nice.
The R5s are nice.
R5s are really nice. It was just like, oh my gosh, I just have to like stand here and click the button. That's cool. I probably shouldn't say that because most people are like, don't just stand there and click the button. I'm like, But yeah, I mean, 6D Mark II, R5, definitely the pocket.
Cool. Cameras. And why black and white photos? Your page is littered with black and white photos. Ooh. And as a photographer, I don't do photos as much, similar to you, but like I've slowly fallen in love with black and white myself as too.
It's just something, I mean, it honestly didn't even start out that way almost. It just kind of, I did a few, especially with like the BTS scene, and then it just adds kind of like a simplicity. It makes everything feel a little more like nostalgic, more like lifestyle, without doing, you know, like, I mean, nothing against people who do like big like colors and shadows and everything. It's black and white has just always been just what I've gravitated towards, and it's quickly became like my entire feed. So I'm trying to like, okay, let me just throw in like a so-and-so, but it's black and white stuff for you.
I personally am so obsessed with just composition. For me, it's like I think that's like something I understand in the photo and video world is just composition. And that's why when I put a photo black and white, it's like nothing matters besides that composition. Photo, like that composition is just 10 out of 10. I love it. For sure. And like that's why I do it. But Kind of interesting, yeah.
I'm gonna use that. I'm like, yeah, it's the composition for me. It's definitely. I'm not just lazy.
No, it's actually, dude. I don't know, and I feel like I didn't even realize that, but like I just was thinking when we were chatting, and I'm like, that's the photos that I do. Like when I shoot architecture, I always do black and white because
Really?
I think like the composition of architecture is just like so
Yeah.
beautiful, and I shoot a lot of architecture. Just like if I'm like in Amsterdam rolling around, or I'm like,
cool. Do you shoot
we went to
film?
DC. Yeah, I shoot a little bit of film. My film camera sucks. I had like the best film camera ever. Left it at the beach. Gone.
That was an L. I'm so sorry.
Yeah,
I'm sorry for
it's a
your
big
loss.
L. It's a big L. What is the coolest brand or person you've had the pleasure to work with?
Ugh, that's tough. That's so tough. I've had the pleasure of working with like so many cool people. Like it's been in every group of people, every situation has been so like unique. So it's hard to pick just one. I think the most fun I've had creatively was definitely in Miami, working with Vault Management, like their models, a couple of really cool people out there. Production wise, it's been really cool working with like bigger businesses and understanding kind of like the business side of it and kind of like what they're looking for. But I can't pick just one.
Okay.
Yeah, I can't pick just one.
Oh God. Nah, I'm just kidding. That's cool. That's cool. Describe the energy of Minnesota Swim Week in 3 words.
New, anticipated, kind of scary almost. Yeah, kind of scary.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like it. And then the last thing, what is your biggest accomplishment in the past few years?
I would say, again, there's been so many cool things. I would definitely say any project that I can like start from the ground up and meet with people and just kind of grow it as a whole, that's just huge. I think I'm most excited about Minnesota Swim Week. I'm most excited about producing Runway, but every time I produce something, I'm always just like, what's next? But the biggest accomplishment would definitely be being able to consistently do things over the last 2 years. It's easy to do like one project and be like, okay, like now what? But I've just been fortunate to like always have the opportunities to grow and do more and expand. So I definitely say, I think 2023 as a whole is like my biggest accomplishment.
Super cool. Yeah. And you've been able to stay busy since you started.
Yeah. I took a month off. But I've finally got 8 hours of sleep a night for like 30 days. But yeah.
Damn. That's something I think not a lot of people talk about is just staying busy. And in order to stay busy, correct me if I'm wrong, but a lot of times you end up taking projects that might not be your favorite, which is fine.
Yeah.
I think there's like 2 creatives out there. There's one creative that's like a little stubborn. That's like, hey, I am gonna, only take projects that feed me, that are exactly what I want. And then there's creatives out there that are like, no, I'm here. This is my job and I'm gonna survive. And the last thing I want to do is go back to doing drywall, or the last thing I want to do is go back to that medical facility. And, so like there's that side of things where, I think that's the mindset I've always had is like, just like survive, and unfortunately in the creative industry, a lot of times, especially starting out, you're not going to have the pleasure to pick and choose every single person, you want to work with. And that's fine. Just do more spec projects and market towards the people that you want.
Yeah, just keep building.
To do. So that's cool. Tell me a little bit about how you got your start. Walk me through like the start of the story in 2021.
2021. So it was I wish I had like we talked about it earlier, but I wish I had like a really cool like photography story. I've met a lot of really like inspiring creatives who are just like, like I've always had an eye for it since like high school, or photography was like my saving grace. But I just wanted like cool pics for the gram. Like I wanted to like higher quality content. I worked with a couple people in my hometown who did photography, shot for me, and I just learned more and more about it and realized that I might have an eye for it. Like I might have something to say and portray.
So at this point, you're just going out with friends,
just shooting,
photographing friends in the city.
Yeah, I think I did like nightlife photography, which was just like me on like the Stone Arch Bridge, like shooting just anything that I thought looked pretty. And it eventually turned into like, okay, let's bring some like people into focus. Let's bring some lifestyle, then models, then I grew on from there.
Super cool.
And then then the model scene. Every time you do something, it's almost just like people want to do more with you. They'll see your stuff And that quickly turned into like producing Runway, and then that turned into like the business side of it, and then working with brands. It just kept like dominoing, like from just starting with like shooting. And it just, I mean, I think the thing people don't talk about is that cameras can get you in anywhere. Like, I think, like, if you just have a camera, like, I'd love to shoot your show, you're like, okay, come in, and then you meet people, you grow, and like learn from that. And that's definitely it for me, like just shooting events and meeting people and growing in that industry. So
yeah, a camera has allowed me to see countless states I never would have seen. It has allowed me to be ground floor at events I never would have been at. Yeah. It has allowed me to like find fulfillment. And
what is
just like
your coolest event or coolest client that you've worked with?
Two different things. Well, I got two answers for that, because one of them was recent and they're both kind of recent, but that last year's Super Bowl, coolest thing we got to do was we went out with Maxim to the Super Bowl, and we went and shot this like Super Bowl experience video, and that was crazy. Like there was like 22 people on set. I somehow was able to direct this shoot, and I showed up, and I was like, day one, it was like the pre-light day, like walk through the locations and stuff, and I'm like the youngest one there, and I
saw that. I was just like,
I'm directing. I don't even know how I'm directing this. I had probably not directed that many shoots at that point. And I had my friend Spencer Clover with me. He's like my main lighting guy. I feel like I don't know if I should like say that. I don't know. People can use Spencer Clover. He's a beast. Take my vendors. But no, so I was with him, and then he has shot like a bunch of movies, and he's like worked with Netflix and Hulu and stuff like that. So I was like, dude, I'm happy you're here. He's AC, assistant camera, and helping Devin, who is DP. And he was just like helping me walk through it, because he like knew what I needed to do. And middle of the shoot, he's like, dude, you're doing a great job. Like, don't change anything. So I think that was like for sure a cool shoot for me, because it was like a big client. It was at the Super Bowl, obviously. So you're like at this event that you never would have been at. Yep. And then it was, I was like directing, and I was like learning and trying something kind of new to me at the time, which was kind of cool. And I did have a great assistant director who like has 30 years of experience.
How'd you get that gig? Like, how did you?
I met a guy in Miami at another event that I probably shouldn't have been at. I thought this guy came up to me. He's like, dude, I got like so many projects for you, you know, and I'm like day 5 of Miami. So I've been told everything, you know, you're coming on my, you know, you're like in Miami. It's like, there's a lot of like, I don't want to say there's a lot of pretenders, but there's a lot of people that, you know, will promise the world and then you never hear from them again. Yep. So I thought this was just one of those guys, you know, we're at this like swim week event, and he's like running around, and he looks like he's got like dressed in like nice clothes and stuff. He's got he's got an aura around him, and he's like, yeah, dude, I got these, like, I can get you on these shoots. And I was like, yeah, right, whatever, dude. Sent him an email, never heard back. And then all of a sudden he called me, and he's like, we need you on the Super Bowl shoot. Yeah. So I was like, damn, I'll be there. And it went super good. Everyone was super happy. And I think it's still to this day one of the best projects we've done. The second thing, this is the coolest event I've been to though. Super random. Someone just emails me one day, hey, we need you to shoot this weekend. Are you around? And I'm like, yeah, I'm around. They're like, cool. It's for an artist that's performing this weekend. So I'm immediately like, who the fuck's performing this weekend? So I Google like who's performing, and it's like Prof is performing at like First Ave. And then Taylor Swift is performing at the US Bank. Way. So I was like, no freaking way I'm gonna end up shooting this Taylor Swift concert. But I ended up shooting for the opener, Girl in Red. Yeah. And her team was super cool.
The most recent concert eras?
Yeah. Yeah, so it was like there was like that's two shows, back-to-back nights. And we shot the first night. I shot a bunch of clips on camera, sent them the clips. So like, actually second night, we're going to want you to just shoot mostly iPhone.
That's crazy.
iPhone. So then, well, I was booked both nights, but then I had to shoot iPhone the second night. I was like, this sucks. This could be way cooler, but I'm just like here with this iPhone. And I think iPhones are powerful and all, but I was just like, damn. But that was cool, because I just got to like go to like, I don't know. It was just like cool to be down there. And like, I heard Taylor Swift's voice. I dapped up her dad. It's pretty cool. Her dad came out, he's like, what's up? How you guys doing? Because like it was Girl in Red's last time on tour. She was with them for like a month of the tour, and it was her last date. So she was flying back to somewhere in Europe where she lives, and she said goodbye to Taylor. So then her dad came home and was like, "What up?" And I was like, "What up?"
That's crazy.
Yeah, so that was cool, and I couldn't document any of it too. That's what killed me too, because I was like, wanted to post on the story, but I couldn't.
Of course not.
At the time.
Yeah,
so
that's nuts.
You know how that goes, but yeah, so that's like, I don't know. It's always fun to kind of do stuff
crazy.
like that.
I mean, if anyone knows the story of me trying to get Taylor Swift tickets, they're like, "Oh, he's dying."
What is your Taylor Swift story?
It's too embarrassing. I definitely got like scammed a few times. So I was just like sitting at, like, it was like my villain origin story just at the night of the freaking Eras tour. Like, especially since everybody who I knew was like posting it.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just sitting in my room, just like, she's not even that cool. Like, I'd much rather see like someone else. But it's just, that's crazy. Like, just being able to like shoot it and actually being there. That's seriously, congratulations.
Thanks, man. And I think Taylor Swift's just one of those artists where it's like, you realize when you're like there, like I was like waiting outside for them to come grab me, and I'm looking around and I'm like, this girl literally has an army.
She's cute. Like yeah,
it's insane. I was very like blown away by just how crazy and loyal her fan base is, and they're all in like,
don't play.
They don't play at all, and like, I don't know. I just like, I thought it was really cool. That was fun thing to do. So that's definitely like the coolest thing I've ever shot. Yeah. Wow. But yeah, jumping kind of back into your story, I mean, a little bit. So then when did you start creative directing?
Ooh, I don't know. So I've always kind of had like that, like management, like skill. I mean, it's
that business acumen a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, just like anything I've done from like, college to sports, it's always been kind of like a managing tick attendance type of thing. But I realized that, which client? I was shooting with a client who wanted like a whole new campaign because they wanted to go like more edgy, and they had, I mean, pretty much like commercial stuff before, great stuff, but they kind of wanted like more of a fashion look for it. And that was like the first time they were just like, yeah, like send me a mood board, let me know. I'm just like, okay, like what, like, the 50 questions, like, what do you want? Like, is this too much? Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And they're like, no, like take it away. And that was the first time that like I like picked like my videographer, Andre Woods, he's phenomenal. I picked a couple of the BTS photographers, all the models. I'm just like, okay.
Put this whole thing together.
Yeah. And like that was the first time I realized that like I don't like answering emails. Like everyone's just like, what time is it? Like, what's the location? I'm just like, I just woke up. Like, it's 2 p.m. Like, it's fine. But that was the first time I ever like had to like manage a team, and I realized that I was like okay at it. Like, okay, I can actually like manage like a group and like communicate things effectively while also still being creative. So I think that was early. I want to say like fall 2022, and like that was actually that led into like my first like runway production, which was October 2022. That was a time where I actually had to like from start to finish put together a production on a scale with like live people, and like just like that was crazy. Yeah,
and like what do you think is like the main skill that you need to be a good creative director? Like, what do you think is that one skill that every creative director needs?
I'd say before the actual event or project or shoot date, definitely time management and just keeping everything in front of you. I'm always somebody that's like set like weekly milestones, set like monthly milestones. That way you can kind of keep yourself on schedule and accountable, and just be good at just like keeping things organized. I think the day of things, just being good with stress, anticipate challenges, expect things to go wrong, expect people to be late, expect like food not to arrive, expect great things too, expect like the people in the audience to be crazy, and just always trying to manage your stress level, because how you feel will translate to your team. Just kind of keeping things in front of you, and just being.
I think keeping everyone on the same page is huge too.
Sure.
That's where my mind went. But that's a great answer. But for me, the struggles that I face when I like creative directing is like, does this hair and makeup artist know what the look that we're going for is? And you can try to describe it, but like, do they really, really know? Maybe not, but I got to put together like a mood board and send something over so like she is 1000% knows what she's doing.
Every tiny detail.
Yeah. And then like a lot of things, you just got to make sure you're like translating things correctly. Like the client tells you one thing that they want changed on the visuals or like the lighting. You have to like translate that and make sure it actually gets like received in like I don't know. Cause you can call people sometimes and they'll be like on the phone, yeah, dude, I got it. Sounds good. You're like, I don't know if they actually like got it. Yeah. So, gosh, yeah, it's It's hard, man. And do you feel like you're at the mercy of like other people a lot as a creative director?
Yeah, it's crazy that you bring that up, because I was actually having a conversation with Andre Woods, he's my director of photography, about this, and just kind of putting a team together for next year. And I was telling him, like, I really want like people who are like locked in, because it's like you'll have to like wait for a response or wait for like their delivery date. And as like someone who's like managing, you almost have to like tell them like 2 days ahead so you can have it on when you need it, or make sure. And yeah, I definitely feel like you definitely have to keep in mind everybody else's schedule and like kind of how they work, which can be frustrating because you are like, go, go, go. Like you want things done ASAP, and people are not always, they don't always work that way effectively. So yeah, you definitely have to be mindful of like other people and what they got going on too.
And just like, I think like, what do you think about this? Like calming, for me, I'm like racy sometimes. Yeah. Sometimes I think calming down and understanding like it's not a race against the clock. Like we quoted 20 hours of like pre-production and like creative direction time where I'm going to spend time with everyone and figure everything out. But like, I know in my head, I'm like, if I can get that done in 15 hours, I made an extra 5 hours of profit. But I think it's also like a bad thing because we're also like the heart of it. If you're like creative directing, you're like the heart of it. So you have to make sure that you really do take your time and do your diligence. You should almost be like less concerned about the hours, and obviously more concerned about like the final outcome and what you're going to get.
For sure.
I think that's super huge, at least for me. And I'm like learning, every time you say something, I'm like learning, I'm like thinking in my head, like, how can I channel that?
No, I mean, that's it. That 15-hour thing is so true. Like I had something due tomorrow, and I'm like, if I do it by Monday, then I don't have to deal with it. But I'm just like, okay, I probably should take that extra like 5 hours or that extra week. And being that you are the heart of it, like I think honestly, one of the most challenging things is knowing that you can't really fall apart, because if you aren't on top of it, then everything else is not like on top of it. Yeah. And I mean, going back to the production I did last October, that was the biggest like okay, I need to really figure out how to be a creative director, because I just remember being like, I got triggered by the sound of like my phone in the morning, like, oh dang, oh my god, something else just went wrong, or like, oh, there's something, and just being able to like, again, just staying calm. Have you ever seen those documentaries where the artist or whoever is like in like a room by himself and just kind of just like
just hiding? Yeah.
That's me. I'm like, I'm going to use the restroom for a few hours. Don't talk to me. That's kind of definitely having those times to just kind of stay calm, for sure.
Yeah, it's easy to get overwhelmed, and I think sometimes, depending on there's two people in this world, right? Like you get overwhelmed, you get a bunch of tasks and you're like, oh, I can't do any of them. Or you're like me, where you get a bunch of tasks, you're like, I need to get through all of these, like I can't leave until all these are done, which is, both have pros and cons, to be honest. But like, yeah, I don't know. You have to know.
Yeah.
You have to just keep a pulse on everything and know that if you fall apart, or if you just put those, like you said, let things get behind you, you're going to be in a tougher spot.
Definitely.
Super, super cool, man. Want to dive in, change gears a little bit. Do you have anything else on like the creative directing side of things? No, Any other tidbits for the people?
Just, stay calm, and don't forget to be excited about it. Like being a creative director is cool. Like, and like I love that you were like, just being at Taylor Swift's concert was like insane, or just like being at the Super Bowl was insane. Like, don't be afraid to like
smell the roses in the moment a little bit. You're like, I'm here. Like, look around and like take it all in for a second. The team
is going in. The project is cool. Like, just enjoy it. And I think, if you enjoy what you're doing, the product will reflect the process too. So that's all.
Yeah, really, really good. Really, really good. Want to dive into Minnesota Swim Week, dude. This is something that I think correct me if I'm wrong, but this is like what's getting you on the news and like what's getting you in front of so many people. It's such a community-based thing. So tell me, what inspired you to create Minnesota Swim Week in the first place?
I honestly, I love creating things that are new. I love bringing more people in, especially, we talked about this like earlier, kind of being in a state where you kind of have the ability to like influence and like create new things, and just not have to compete with, the other things that are happening, especially in like a bit bigger market. But swim weeks specifically, I love summer. I love runway. So I was looking for something to do in the summer season that was new, that could really lock in on the culture of Minneapolis. And as soon as the sun comes out, as soon as it hits like 45, everyone's like in shorts, like ready to just like leave the house. So I'm just like, okay, how do I lock in but still make it consistent with like national trends of like what's popular in fashion, but also making it like fun and unique. And that's
hard because that's a moving target, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the fastest moving target ever.
Always changing. Yeah, swim week specifically was interesting because it kind of became something on its own. I had, the main like principles of it. I want it to be inclusive. I want it to be empowering. I think when people think swimsuits, it's easy to like, oh, I don't want to like be in a swimsuit. But the best thing about it were people who were posting like, oh my God, I feel so confident. I feel so beautiful. And then being able to communicate that to a market that hasn't been done before, and having so much positive feedback, it really has just fueled the whole thing and makes me want to like do a bigger thing next year and the year after that, et cetera.
Yeah. That's cool, man. That's cool. And I love like the inclusivity side of things. I think one thing with a swimwear client that we work for that I noticed right away was like wearing like swimsuits are like some of the most vulnerable things girls wear. You want to make sure they're comfortable, and like it's obviously hard to like put on a swimsuit and then like get in front of a bunch of cameras.
And people,
and people live, which is even crazier. Like every element that could make it difficult is there. So it's just really cool that you've been able to do it, bro.
No, I really commend like the models. Like they without them, none of this is possible. And just seeing the energy like backstage, and then them just being like, I'm so excited to do this. Like I was wearing pants. Like I don't know if I could like get in the swim trunks and walk in front of like 300 people and be like confident, but they killed it. I really they fueled my energy, and just, they definitely, I commend them for everything that they do in the industry.
Yeah. Well, for people, obviously we shot Miami Swim Week recently, and like we've been around swimwear for a while, but for the people that don't know, can you describe like a quick overview of what Swim Week is?
Yeah.
Specifically Minnesota Swim Week too.
Minnesota Swim Week. I mean, that's our like unique way of, again, capturing that like summer energy and swimwear and resort wear and just like all things summer. I mean, alongside the swimwear and the resort wear, we work with like some brands too, like tanning solutions, like everything summer.
Oh, okay,
like
cool.
Summer makeup, like summer cream, summer lotions, summer event partnerships. And it's just been a very like unique way of bringing everything together with people who love summer in a very entertaining way. That has really been like the meat and potatoes of Swim Week.
Mm-hmm. So how do you get paid at Swim Week? Is it the brands that are coming and showcasing their stuff? Is it the models? Break it down?
Yeah, you sound like my dad. He's like, so like, how are you paying the bills? It's like, you should have been an engineer. I'm like, yeah, I know. It's Swim Week. It's honestly, I just read an article about it from the Business of Fashion. They're great about talking about like runway shows, and most people don't get paid from runway shows. Like runway shows are always about brand identity and being consumer facing. It's not a cash grab whatsoever. If anything, you take a loss. Yeah. Swim Week specifically, being that it was the first year, we honestly broke even, I was just relieved that
big win.
Yeah, broke even. But it's creating the branding materials, logos, the commercials, the campaigns. It's a lot of expenses that go into it, and the runway shows. As a creative, you want to make the project as big as it can be, and you kind of put everything you do back into the next one. So it's just like, how do you make it bigger? How do you make it cooler? But there's obviously some like unique ways as far as events goes. There's vendors, there's ticket sales, there's
ticket sales. Okay, I didn't
products.
Even think of that.
Yeah, there's some events, especially with Miami Swim Week, they do a great job of having like products and like branded merchandise and like that kind of stuff drives the bottom line as well. But runway shows really are like, anybody who's produced a show knows it's like, okay, you're not gonna retire after this. If anything, you're gonna get a job after this.
Yeah. So. And it's oddly, I figured this out when we were in Miami Swim Week. It sounds so glamorous. Mm-hmm. It's oddly so chaotic and such a mess back there. And there's like people are just swirling around and running. It's like you step out and you're like, you like stumble out the door and you're like, what the heck just happened in there? I can't even, but it's different obviously for like the viewers and the spectators who are just coming in, sitting in their chair, getting their little,
it looks nice,
pouch and stuff. Yeah. Like their little like 10% off ice cream gift card things, like
tequilas.
Yeah. But yeah, like I think behind the scenes, it's like crazy, like hair, makeup, changing. It's just, I don't know. It's crazy.
Of moving parts. And that's honestly, I mean, you asked me earlier about my biggest accomplishment. And I think I've just backstage being so crazy. Something that I am proud of is just how, I mean, getting compliments from people who I work with, like, it was so organized. It was like, so like put together backstage, like everything was on time. That's probably like my like biggest compliment ever. Like,
dude,
it wasn't stressful.
Great.
And yeah, but backstage especially, it can get, there's just so many moving parts. It can get out of hand like that.
Yeah, and if you don't have it set up right, I mean, every tent and every swim week is a little bit different, but like
something people don't know is, so our Minnesota Swim Week show was set to doors open at 5, and I mean, to give the models more space backstage, we kind of opened the front part of the location to the models to like sit and enjoy with the AC. But I was literally like, I feel like people hear fashion and they think, oh my God, it's so glamorous. Like, yeah, it's so like, it's so intriguing. Like, no, I was like picking up like, again, shout out to the models. They're fabulous. They're great. Everybody's great. Disclaimer. But I was like picking up like water cups like before the guests like walked in.
Yeah.
And it was a scramble and I was like wiping off sweat. I'm just like, and then 5 p.m. hit. It's like, oh my God, how are you? That's great.
Yeah.
Welcome in. Grab a tequila for us both. And then it was just, it's just crazy.
Yeah, that's crazy. I think that was one thing too. We were on the outside shooting it, but they had a bunch of people in the back, right? Mm-hmm. And at Miami Swim Week, and they had all these people with like just like racks of like stuff that they're standing by. And I realized after the fact that like they had limited girls, obviously, and they had a lot of suits to showcase. So they would loop around. They'd come out. These girls would like jump into a change room,
throw stuff,
pull everything up, put the new stuff on. Then they'd go to someone. That person would then like primp and make sure everything's tied right, looks good, and they'd go out and they would have like 55 seconds to change or something ridiculous.
Them. I think people think of modeling as like, oh my God, she looks pretty, like it's great, but they are like sprinting backstage, like throwing things off, but also keeping like organized so the designers don't lose product or anything. Yeah, changing back in line while all making it look like effortless. Like if I did all that, I'd be sweating in front of 300 people. Like they just like, make it look so easy, and it's crazy. And then like it's chaos, and then you have to go out and like smile and like and then you have to remember what your walk is. Everything.
It's crazy. It's crazy. I want to kind of jump into a little thing here. Actually, you might have already answered this, but can you name a standout moment or memory from the first swim week?
Ooh. Standout
moment. Like, was there like a time like people came up to you, this happened?
Yeah, the actual show in June, I got really good feedback. That was really nice. I'm a perfectionist, so I'm normally like everything went wrong. Like didn't you see the lint on the door when you walked in? Like it's crazy. But they're like, no, it was great. It was so fabulous. It was awesome. But I honestly think we had a campaign in February that was outdoors in the snow. And the models were wearing like swimsuits in the snow, and it was cold. And that was the moment. Like they were having so much fun, but it was like very cold. And that was the moment I remember standing there and just like, wow, people really want to go all in for this. And that was the moment where I'm just like, okay, this might be a thing. Like it was, if they're willing to be in, bikinis or, the swimsuits in like 20-degree, like frosted like ice, then we might have something here. That was definitely the moment of Swim Week where I'm just like, okay, I can't stop because this is crazy. Yeah, for sure.
Are you sourcing these models, or the brand sourcing these models, or a little bit of both?
It's a mixture. I love to have brands kind of pick models who they're comfortable with. We work with, the major agencies in the state. Shout out to those guys who really help with the organizing. But I also love to give new models opportunities. I love to kind of, especially aspiring models who want experience, or people who come in who like reach out to me that want to work with me. But it's normally it's just like, hey, I would love to have you. Like, let's talk about your rates, or I think your look is fabulous. Like, let's work together sometime soon. But
models love that too.
Yeah, for sure. Just being a casting director is kind of tough too, because I have people who like come up to me like after shows, like, I'd love to work with you, but you also have to like make sure they're in positions to be successful. Like a model might not be a swimwear model, but they could be great for the fall. but it's just kind of like I'm always scouting. I think a lot of people in the industry are always just like looking out for people naturally.
Yeah.
Like, I think I saw somebody in like Nordstrom. She was like 5'11" and she worked at the product store. I'm just like, do you model? And she goes, little. And I was like, all right, man. Let's talk. It's okay. Like that was cool, but it's always kind of, just me sourcing and just finding the best people to fit the project for sure.
It's inspiring, man. You truly have like passion. Like I think I can just like everything from just like constantly looking out for models to like being a perfectionist to like, you're clearly like, you don't just do this to do it, which is crazy. And it's even more mind-boggling to think that in 2020 you were working at, was it a medical distribution?
Yeah, so there was a branch of it that made like products. So during COVID, they had a big contract to make like face shields. So I was behind a desk like doing like logistical
I know where you're
stuff.
at.
Yeah, do you?
Yeah.
Let's not talk about it. It's fine. I mean, it was great pay. I love them, but listen, it's not the best place to be. But they were like making face shields, and I was just at a desk like doing logistical stuff. But I was always kind of like into Instagram. I'm pretty sure the lady who worked HR, we went to high school together. So we always kind of like talk about fashion like on our 15-minute break, and which was cool. But yeah.
And I was just kind of just giving you props for being passionate. But I will say, if the brand is the brand that I'm thinking about, that you were working for at that time, I know a lot of very like successful entrepreneurs that have come out of that company.
Yeah.
It's pretty insane.
I'm honestly, the company
breeds an entrepreneurial culture or something.
They're great. I mean, honestly, I know a lot of corporate businesses, you kind of get lost in like the engine of corporate, but they're actually, at the company I worked for, very encouraging to like move up. Like I spoke to like the CEO, he was amazing. He would take time and talk to us all individually and talk to us for hours about like how to be an entrepreneur, like how to get started, how to do all those things. And everybody there is like encouraged to like be more. And it's just great. It's so
And great. He journals a lot.
Yeah, he writes a lot.
We're definitely talking about this.
Yeah, he writes a lot. What's hilarious, and he'll probably be mad at me for like telling this story, is he's somebody who, he loves what he does so much, but he went to like Cali for like a month and came back, and I mean, he's a CEO, so you don't always see him like, the day to day. But he came back, he pulled up in like his new his new car. I'm not gonna like name his stuff, but he pulled up in his new car. And he's like, hey guys, how's it going? I'm just like, great. I've been here for 6 hours. And he's just like, oh, okay. Well, yeah, the flight was crazy too. Like, I'm just like, all right, well, but no, they're really, I mean, the pay is nice and like everybody's taken care of. So yeah, it's definitely a nice place to work for sure.
Good stuff, dude. But yeah, diving back into the Fashion Week stuff. Sorry, we got a little sidetracked there. But what is your ultimate vision with Swim Week?
Swim Week. Honestly, I definitely want Swim Week to reach a place where it can be like recognized nationally. I've already had some interest speaking to people like in Miami about collaborating, doing some stuff, but I would just love to create something that also like pushes the Minneapolis forward. I mean, we have great people here, great creatives, great community, hardworking people. And if Swim Week can be an engine to bring more recognition in a positive way to Minneapolis, it would be success for sure, just nationally and for sure.
That's super cool. Yeah, and I think it's like, dude, it's starting small. It's crazy. The Hagen team, who we share a studio with, Zach.
Of course.
Yeah, I was just talking about. Yeah, I didn't know. I've actually met you before through Zach.
Yeah, I mean, I assume that's why you're like, sure. I'm like, oh, maybe he doesn't.
Well, okay. So, funny enough, wasn't it when you were messaging me about the podcast? Wasn't I like, are you in Minnesota?
Yeah, and I was just like, do you not?
No. So I was like sidetracked. So Gabriel King, and I think he modeled for us on the Maxim shoot, and his thing was, it's Gabriel King, and he's like,
how dare he?
Yeah, no. He stole your thought. He stole your. But like, I thought I was talking to him, and he's a fashion model. So I was like, so I don't know. But then I put it together, and then I clicked on your profile, and I'm like, I remember this guy. And then I went over to Zach. I'm like, this is the guy that you introduced me to, right? He's like, yeah, of course. So then I put it all together after the fact. But yeah, I would have said yes either way.
And you're like, you're not from here. I'm just like, I was about to cap. I was about to be like, well, I just flew in from Milan. So you caught me at a good time. And I was like, no, I'm from here. I'm from Minneapolis.
No, it was perfect. And that's something I love, like, to be honest, the hardest part about this podcast is finding guests. It's just, I don't know if it's the hardest part. It's just the part that I hate putting time into, like sending a bunch of cold DMs and be like, hey, do you want to come on our podcast? And then like, so like, I love when, you know, people are interested and they're like, hey, I think I could provide value in this way. Yeah. Can I come on? And I
loved your podcast. The first one that introduced me to it was I think the very last one you did with the modeling industry. Like, it was just so insightful, but still so like candid. And I saw a couple ones with a couple of the CEOs you worked with and just like different people. And I'm just like, why aren't more people like talking about it? Like, this is actually really cool. Yeah. And I feel like a lot of people like start podcasts and it's kind of like, oh, just like, no, your podcast has definitely like made a statement. I'm honestly honored.
Yeah. And my team can attest this. Like, I do this podcast just because I literally like talking to people. And I think like the art of conversation has been lost. Really. Like, I think that not a lot of people conversate. I know a lot of like younger kids that are like afraid to go up and talk to people. And that's like one of my kind of like underlying missions. I haven't really talked about much of what I got in the works for that, but that's just something I love doing, is like talking to people. So I don't really care if this podcast gets 1 million views, 5 views. Like, I don't even care. I just like having a conversation like we're having right now. Yeah. And also, my team can attest this. Whenever they get in my car, all I have is podcast. All I do is listen to podcasts. I don't listen to any music. Same. Really? You're the same way? Yeah. I like getting in my car, putting on my maps, making one decision of the podcast I want to listen to, and then just driving. Like, I hate being like, God, this song always comes on and I hate it. It reminds me of this moment, whatever. So, yeah. I appreciate the compliment though, man. Yeah, of course. That's super cool. Last question on the Minnesota Swim Week, and then you can elaborate on anything, but how do you select models and photographers to participate in the Swim Week?
So photography is easier. I have a lot of people. I mean, I kind of open that up to people to like reach out to me. Okay. And I work with great photographers. People are always wanting to shoot shows and be part of something like that. I worked with this last Swim Week. I'm not sure if I can name drop, but I worked with like Nicole Gonzalez. She's an amazing swimwear photographer. I worked with Thomas Alfalter. I might have botched that, but they are both just great together, and they really took our like branding to the next level with them. And I worked with a couple like videographers too, but every show, just, I think people see things that could look cool, which I'm flattered that they want to like be a part of it, and they like reach out and like, yeah, like I'd love to have you. The more the merrier, and the more different perspectives, the cooler. Yeah. Modeling is a lot more intentional, I guess, more specific, because you want to, I mean, casting, I mean, I'm sure you know, like casting, you want to find models who translate to the audience, who are relatable, but find them who can like be good ambassadors for the brand, while also keeping it traditional to like the modeling industry. So it's not just like influencers, or it's people who actually like are experts in the field, but also putting a good group together. The thing I love about like our shows, models are always like friends afterwards. Like, it's some shows you go to and models kind of just like sit at their desks and it's just like, oh, okay, like I'm just here to walk. But I mean, just putting a good groups together and people who are great for the brand, that the audience can relate to, see themselves in, and will rep the clothes the best way, is always like the magic formula, I think. Yeah, that's good. That's interesting. I think it's powerful to really be selective about models, because I think it's easy to cut a corner there. You know, I think it's easy to be like, oh, I'm just going to throw this person in a suit. This person is extremely gorgeous and they have a great body. I'm going to put them in a suit. But like, that is, I think, a dying kind of trend. Don't miss the technical skill too. Like, I think people are like, oh, she's cute. Like, no, but her walk is pretty like perfect. Like, she's a great worker. She's early, which is the intangibles that you don't really like see, but early, great worker, great walker, everything. Yeah. Cool, dude. Well, I just wanted to ask you one more thing. With consulting, I think we're almost coming up on an hour here, ironically enough. Really? Isn't it go quick? Yeah, it does. It goes so quick. Really does. But consulting and creative directing is something that you have been doing. Wanted to hear from you just in a consulting aspect. Like, what do you think brands are missing lately? Like, what is every brand kind of like not doing, or what is every brand doing that you think is like pointless? I think that this is a big question. Hot take. Yeah, this might be a hot take. So I can speak to the brands who work with me and kind of like my overall perspective. But I think brands who come to me who essentially want marketing but don't really know where to start, especially since marketing is changing. I mean, it went from like a lot of like ads and like sponsor, like everything, to like having a face for your brand, like influencers, the user generated content. And a lot of the times the brand, it's as easy as just like structuring it the right way. I think people will sometimes use like branding and marketing interchangeably, when it's like branding is like the look of your brand, right? And then marketing is how you're getting that information out to the masses and then convert that into sales. And a lot of the times people are focusing on like, it's a really cool picture, but it's not always converting into sales, or it's a cool picture, but I can't really translate it to the audience I'm reaching. And that's where I come in. Like, okay, I think I'll like help them lay that out and provide any insight that I can for them. Yeah.
I think that's really good, dude. I think that kind of is where I was going to go with it. I was just saying a lot of brands don't really know. I was thinking like a lot of brands don't know who they are. Yeah. Like a lot of brands don't know what they want. And like, it's like, it sounds like, oh, we're a video production company. We could like help them figure out what they want or something like that. And we can to an extent, but like the people that we find the most success with video wise, and probably same thing for you, is just like, okay, this is our brand. This is what we believe in. This is our core values. This is this. We have, you know, like they have like a very clear and concise idea of what they're trying to create, what they want it to look like, what their messaging should be. And then it's just like from there we can like run with it. You know, I think like when someone hits me up for a video, I'm like, okay, cool. But when someone hits me up for like a campaign or like a larger project or like, and they have like execution and like ideas around it, it's always so much better.
It's easier too.
It's so much easier.
Just having kind of something to follow up with, like something to base the whole thing around. I think, a lot of, again, and I feel bad for brands sometimes because we can feel the market changing, and it's especially with, Instagram and like the algorithm, and you keeping track of how everything's always changing and what they're pushing out this week. Yeah. But I think just like you said, if the brand knows who they are, it's just like our job to like make it look amazing.
Amplify that.
Yeah, exactly.
And I don't know, one example, I'm like this, I just had this like epiphany in the store this weekend that it like blew my mind. It's kind of on the terms of fashion and branding.
I was like, store? Did you say store?
Yeah. So it's my girlfriend, she's been obsessed with Abercrombie forever. Okay. Right. And I'm like, Abercrombie, you mean that like whack brand that was like cool in like 2014? So I was like, whatever. She's like, let's come in here with me, you know, and she always orders everything online. So I was like, she's like, come in here with me. So I go in there.
I love this.
And I'm like, wow, they got a really nice girls section. I'm like hanging out with her, and then all of a sudden I like trickle to the back of the store. I'm like, damn, are these men's right here? These pants are kind of fire. And then all of a sudden, like, I'm going around, and then I spend $300 and she spends $0 and we leave the store. But I was like, they have like this whole outfit is from there, and I don't know. I've just been trying to focus on like clothing a little bit more and like doing some things, and I was just like so blown away by like this like what I thought was like a washed up brand, like found out who they were, found out what their identity was, latched onto it, and like is able to market and advertise towards those people. And it's a bulletproof store because the girls have their side, the guys have their side, and it's like everyone's like happy. Like we both could theoretically go in there and spend a bunch of money.
Yeah, Abercrombie, I'm happy that you mentioned them because I feel like they're a brand that people don't talk about enough. Yeah. Like they've definitely like, they've almost added, that they've kept their core identity of making like everyday like essential items, but also adding a few like, statement pieces as well. But they've done such a good job at making their store have a certain level of like luxury. It's kind of like an elevated like H&M or Zara.
It is.
It's very much like Abercrombie, and I think that's just something people don't talk about enough. Like it's very much rebranded, but they didn't like throw it in your face. Like they just like
they just like became it.
Yeah, exactly.
And it was like, I don't know, it's insane. And like, I don't know, I just got like their denim, and they have just like simple freaking cuts, nice and they're just like this like new loose fit that everyone's going for and stuff. Yeah. I don't know. It kind of, I don't know. I can appreciate a good store in the fashion industry. I can just appreciate a good store that is like, makes it easy on me, and they put everything's proportionate to like what the styles are. Like long tees used to be in, and now this like rule of like thirds is in, where like your top third should be like I don't know. I'm like, I can never keep up with it, but I think I'm starting to latch on. We got Devin and Caitlin, and they're like they love the fashion stuff, so they're helping me.
Yeah.
spruce my game up. But
we're gonna need that Abercrombie try-on haul soon here after this podcast. Give the people what they want.
Yeah, Abercrombie, if you're listening right now, hit us up. We need a sponsorship.
Pants from Abercrombie, shirt from Zara.
But dude, thank you for coming on. Where can the people follow you? Where are you active? I know you're making these TikToks.
You saw those? Shoot.
No, you came in here and you're like, I'm about to make a TikTok.
I am trying to get more like day in the life content out there, just because I don't know what else to do. But I mean, I will be more active on Instagram. I mean, but you can follow me at Instagram. I am Isaiah King, not Gabriel King. I'm sure he's great, but I am Isaiah King. And yeah, just follow me there, and I'll always post like the new trends, things I find interesting, and just kind of like what the team is working on, for sure.
Sweet, dude. Well, dude, thanks for coming on. I'm honestly like super happy with this conversation. I think like I like, full transparency for the people listening, we like basically met today.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like we met, but we never like said a word. I didn't know anything about this guy until now.
I am from Minneapolis, people. I do live here.
But cool. Thanks guys for tuning in. Peace.